Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. Tomorrow is the NBA Draft, and we already have a lot of action going down today. It's going to be the next like 3 weeks are going to be crazy busy, but we've already got exciting stuff happening to dig into. We've got maybe a 3-team trade that's about to go down. We've got a trade that actually did happen involving draft picks. We've got news on big time players potentially on the move, all kinds of stuff to get into. Keith, gotta love this time of year, unless you are a fan of sleep.
Yeah, sleep or trying to watch the new Marvel TV show Secret Invasion, which I watched and think I got most of. It is just no spoilers, but I will say this: it is not the kind of show, at least the first episode, that you could like sit down and then like scroll through Twitter and half pay attention to. Like you had to actually pay attention, which is I think anybody who knows like the whole scroll thing is right. They can take on any identity. So I like there was a couple times I was like, wait, do I know that that's that person, or do I know that's this person pretending to be that person? And yeah, it just gets super messy. So I'll rewatch that at some point, and I'll give a better review of it when I have a chance.
So terrible time of year to release that then. Come on,
Yeah,
Disney. Know what you're up against. Know what we're dealing with here with the NBA offseason. And do it
yeah,
at a time where people can pay attention to it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they're not letting the NBA offseason guide their program release dates. I mean, we're full in that Venn diagram of NBA fans and Marvel fans, but I don't know how many others are. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot, but I'm sure
Sure.
it's not enough for them to
No,
make
I
program
agree.
decisions
I
early.
agree. They're not worrying about the
They
NBA
should.
calendar, but they
They
maybe they
should
should.
worry
Yeah, they
about it
got a
for
taste
us.
of NBA
Yeah,
basketball. They were there in the
yeah,
bubble. I mean, come on.
yeah, yeah. Have a
Um,
taste of have some respect for us. So, Trevor, I got a haircut before we go
nice. There we
live
go.
tomorrow. So
You're ready
yeah,
ready for the live show
get
tomorrow
them all
night.
cleaned up. Yeah,
Yeah, be live during the draft, and it's
yep,
going to be a lot of fun breaking down all the
yeah.
picks, all the rumors, all the news, all that sort of stuff.
Definitely live through the first round. Then we'll kind of see where it goes from there, and what it takes on. But man, we got a lot of stuff. So let's
We
get
got a lot.
into it because there's a
Let,
lot of things going on.
let's just get it here. I mean, it's not done at this point, but it
Correct.
sounds like it's heading that direction. The Celtics, the Clippers, and the Wizards in a 3-team trade that would see Kristaps Porzingis go to the Celtics, Malcolm Brogdon and Marcus Smart. Now, I didn't is
No,
Marcus
not
Smart.
Marcus Smart.
He
No,
was in one of them.
yeah, he's not in it. It's Marcus Morris who's in the
Marcus
trade.
Smart was in one of the tweets that went out initially, but then
Yeah, it
okay,
must have been a mistake because it's not Marcus Smart. It's Marcus Morris.
so how do the salaries work then? Because Malcolm
It,
Brogdon goes out from the Celtics. They've got to have more
yeah.
salary going out than that.
So here's what it looks like we're aligning towards.
Okay.
Porzingis opts in to his contract here. So what would happen
36.
is $36 million. One of the things I was told shortly before we started recording is one of the open questions is he opting in and being traded, or is he going to opt in and then do an extend in trade where he adds
Mhm.
a couple years onto his salary? So we've got that part of it, right? That's your first part of it. He would go to Boston. Celtics would be sending Malcolm Brogdon to the Clippers. The other salary sounds like it's going to be Danilo Gallinari.
Mm.
Who gets added in on the Celtics side. That would get them there salary wise. And then to the Clippers, or to that would be Brogdon to the Clippers. Gallinari would go to the Wizards. The Clippers would then send Marcus Morris, and then one other small salary they need to get there to make everything match up. And they've got guys like Jason Preston or Brandon Boston or
Mhm.
somebody like that they can drop into the trade. Could be Amir Coffee if they want to do a slightly bigger salary, but those guys could be added to Morris, and whether they all end up with Washington or one of them gets routed to Boston, in this, we'll see, if that's the way it comes together. But the big parts of this, and then obviously the Wizards would get draft compensation
Yeah, I
as
was going to
well.
say. I'm assuming
Here,
both Boston and the Clippers will be sending draft capital to
yeah,
Washington.
probably,
Okay.
very likely. I think it sounds like it's going to be more coming up from the Clippers, is
Uh-huh.
what it sounds like. But we'll see, what that comes down to too. So, the ultimate is, you get Porzingis to Boston, Brogdon to the Clippers, and then further, expiring salary relief to
Mhm.
Washington with draft picks. I mean, they are full scale. They're tearing it down. So, all that stuff of Kyle Kuzma may still stay engaged with the
No.
Wizards. Yeah, I don't think so. Right? It seems like they're going completely the other way and tearing this whole thing down to the studs as much as they can.
Right, right. So if that is how this all winds up going, and again, right now it sounds like they're just kind of working out the details. So by the time this show releases, this could very well be done, and the exact
Minutes
details are
after.
right. I mean, that's
That's
probably
right,
what's
how it goes.
that's probably the way that's going to happen. But
Yeah.
so the Wizards would just be full teardown mode, do everything they can to just move talent and try to get draft picks and things like. I guess it could be the 30th pick. Right,
Yeah,
and this year's
I
draft
think
could be
there's
the first
a
could
high
be a first
likelihood
rounder
it
that they
could
get.
be. Yeah. Which is weird because, the big key here is that Porzingis opts in today.
Yeah,
There's been some, I think, misunderstanding because of that. People hear that as a deadline, so they think that means, well, the trade has to happen today. He just has to opt in.
right.
That's all. If he opts out, this all goes.
It all falls
It
apart.
can't happen because the Celtics wouldn't be able to acquire him in a sign and trade because they'd be up over the tax apron. It would get super duper messy
Yeah,
with that. So as long as he opts in, which we haven't got an official word yet, that's going to be the way that goes down. The most famous example that I think people should remember on that was Chris Paul did that a couple years
mm-hmm.
back, where he opted in and then got traded. I think that was the one to Houston, if I remember correctly. On that one. So that's could be where all this comes together. So we'll see. So that'll be probably the next thing. It's probably going to be a full bundle of stuff where does Kristaps Porzingis has opted in as part of a trade to the Boston Celtics, and we go. And we're getting it from multiple corners here that it's like they're be careful-ish, but strong possibility, high likelihood,
Right.
and all this stuff. That tells me we're far enough down this road that it's just we got to figure out the other pieces, and off we go.
Yeah, it's laser focused on, or whatever you want to use to describe it.
Funny, Mr. Thesaurus Woj, man, is
Yeah.
he's not been involved in breaking this one down yet. Maybe he's holding out. Maybe he's like deep in the thesaurus looking for the right phrase to throw in there.
That's what it is. That's what it
blow
is.
all the socks off. So since he's not going to apparently do it at the draft this year, so let's talk on court.
Yeah.
Porzingis is coming off the best season of his career. He stayed mostly healthy, and he was great last year. He was really, really good. He was one of the rare bright spots for a bad Washington defense. He actually did well with his rim protection. He was solid rebounding and best shooting he's had. A lot of the analytics guys, whenever something like this is coming down, they immediately go to tweeting out where did they rank in this type of play type and all these. He ranked very, very high as a scorer throughout most of it. So he is I think a really good fit for the Celtics. I think he makes a ton of sense for Boston. It just gives them another score. He's also a guy, he shoots from deep, right? He'll shoot from 28 to 30 feet, and that helps open up driving lanes for the other guys and all those sorts of things there. So, of course, is he going to stay healthy, right? That's the question. Because if you make the trade and then he goes on to play 45 or 50 games, that could get real messy, very quick. But it sounds like the Celtics will keep enough of their front court depth, Al Horford, Rob Williams in this, so they should be okay.
But Brogdon is a constant injury risk anyway,
Yep.
so you're really just swapping out one injury risk for another there.
Yeah, that's it. You're trading small injury risk for big injury risk in this case. And that was one of the things when I talked a lot about Brogdon, if the Celtics were going to make a deal. And I certainly didn't expect it to be go get a $36 million player deal.
Right.
But when I had talked about that, that was part of the reason why. I mean, they got a healthy season out of Brogdon essentially until we got to the finals, right? And then he had that injury there. But it was in this situation. Can you trust that's going to happen again? Because that was his first really healthy season since his rookie year. Every other year, he's missed a lot of time. So he'll fit right in with the Clippers. I mean, I guess if he goes there with all sorts of guys who miss a whole bunch of time themselves. But, we can be reasonable. Let's say project reasonable health. Great fit for the Clippers, right? I mean, fills an immediate need as a starting level point guard. You could still re-sign Russ to a minimum deal, and then you're really covered, right? You kind of covered we've got our 48 minutes of point guard play, and we feel good about it. I would presume this takes them out of the running for Chris Paul because you need Chris Paul for, if you're not right.
Unless you decide you're not keeping Westbrook.
Could be, but I mean, but you're trading some of your salary match to get Brogdon, and you're gonna trade all the rest of it to get Paul. Like
Yeah.
that feels a little weird, right? Because you'd have to do that there too. So, but maybe Chris Paul was like, I don't really want to go there. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, we
that's
don't. Yeah.
speculation, but we don't know. But I mean, that does open up the chance that if he does want to go back to LA, better chance that the Lakers get him, right? Which
If he
which
if he gets
that's
waived, yeah.
yeah, if he gets waived,
If,
yeah, I think there's going to be a trade for Chris Paul for the Lakers. It's too
no.
hard to get there.
Yeah, and
in a way, there's many ways to get there, and a lot of ways that make sense for the Lakers. Not many ways to get there in ways that make sense for the Wizards.
What, on a trade?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Lakers have already. Yeah, the Lakers aren't going to trade for him.
Yeah,
we already know that from our side. There's nothing that makes sense from their side because if you were to replace, say, if you use Mo Bamba and Malik Beasley or something, and you put $25 million locked on your books in money that you were previously going to see just go away, you're not going to take those consequences to get Chris Paul on, because then you're not going to be, your mid-level exceptions gone out the window. Then it becomes harder to keep D'Lo and all that. You're not going to do all that stuff for Chris Paul.
Yeah, so, but Chris Paul to the Lakers for part of an exception, maybe, or on a minimum, 100%. I'd be all in on that. If I was the Lakers, I think that'd be great. It's gone way too far with Chris Paul sucks stuff over the last month or so here. Like even before the Beal stuff, there was like he's just not any good anymore. Like, I mean, what are we doing? Like he can still play. You're probably only going to get 60 games out of him on like high end. But as long as it's, the 20 games or so he misses happen in the middle of the season, it doesn't really matter. It's, is he healthy come playoff time? Then that's all you need. And that to me wouldn't even preclude if the number's reasonable, re-signing D'Angelo Russell or even re-signing, Dennis Schroeder too. And obviously Austin Reeves, because he can play with anybody. Nothing should change, if he becomes available and lands with the Lakers from the way you do it, unless you're looking at it and saying, well, we don't need to throw 20 plus million at D'Angelo Russell now. We can get by other ways. Maybe they do go that direction. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see ultimately where this lands for Chris Paul. If this does take the Clippers out of the running, that would push the Lakers back up. We've heard the Clippers are now in the driver's seat. The Clippers are the favorite, all that. This could change that, obviously. And that's the brilliancy of the NBA offseason is, I mean, there's so many twists and turns. You just never know what you're going to get hit with. You're always one Shams tweet away or Woj bomb away from everything getting turned upside down. So it's one of the things that you love about the offseason.
Where don't like the weather, wait a minute, it'll change, because that's kind of how it goes in New England. And that's that's kind of how I feel about, you don't like the report that's out there, wait a minute, it'll change with the NBA offseason. There's also part of me that laughed and said, you will watch Chris Paul, the Wizards like find nothing that seems reasonable, and they're just like, no, we'll keep him and we'll let his contract guarantee, and then we'll try to trade him later. And then watch like cranky Chris Paul, Marcus Morris, and like rehab Danilo Gallinari, all of a sudden that team wins 41 games. And
God,
what the hell happened?
That would be a nightmare for the Wizards.
Couldn't you almost see it though? Like, one just with the Wizards of it all, and with like the guys involved. Like Chris Paul pulls out the one last great season of his career, and it's too funny because like there is a world where it's like, holy crap, that could actually happen.
You finally, after years and years and years of people saying you need to tank, you need to tear this thing down, you finally tear it down. You get annihilated in your Bradley Beal trade, and you think that you're all set and you can at least get some strong draft picks coming forward, and then you wind up right back in the middle again. That I would feel so bad for Wizards fans if that's the way it went.
It probably like do something like make the play in just enough to make your draft pick bad or something like that. But I mean, we're not spending a lot of time on the Wizards because it's just, I mean, they're a mystery box, right? Who knows?
Sure.
Who knows who will stay, what they'll even be with this. The one thing I do want to say, if Gallinari's involved, I do feel really bad for him because when he signed with the Celtics, he told a lot of stories in his introductory press conference about how like his dad was a huge Celtics fan. He was a
Mm-hmm.
huge Celtics fan. As a kid, he always dreamed about someday playing for the Celtics, and
He never really
tears an
did.
ACL and goes. But I mean, this is the NBA, man. This is that's
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot of room for sentimentality in the league. It's going to be if that's it. But maybe they go a different direction, right? Maybe they throw in Cornette and Muscala instead, and that
Sure.
gets them there. We'll see. There's other options that they could go with, especially if the Wizards are like, we don't want Gallinari on our books at $7 million. Like that's not something we want to do. So we'll find out here, and like 2-3 minutes after we stop recording.
That's when it'll all be official.
Drew is finalized.
Yep. All right, let's stick with the Clippers, and let's talk about a rumor that came out last night. And Mark Stein was talking about this. The Clippers have been kind of quietly trying to find out what they could get for Paul George, what a trade might look like with him. Obviously, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard has not worked, not the way the Clippers thought that it would. And a lot of that has not been because they just don't fit on the floor. It's been injuries have prevented them from going where they want to go. And now are they? This is all right. So this to me is one of those things where right now the Clippers are kind of testing the water. They don't trade him this summer. Maybe it pops up again at the trade deadline. Maybe next summer it starts to get more serious, but just that they're starting to think along these lines. I think that's the takeaway here. You never know. I guess they could shock us and pull a big Paul George trade, but my sense is that it's more of a, hey, let's kind of start to get feelers out there on what this could look like. And then maybe trade deadline when things heat up again, then we'll hear more.
Or something comes your way, they're like, whoa, we didn't expect we could get that, right? Sure. And you do that. One of the things that I think Mark Stein mentioned it, and I'm not going to pull it up right now to try to find it, but I think he mentioned Portland maybe is one of the teams where they could get involved in a potential trade, which, clearly that would make some sense, right? For Portland, if they're going the direction we think, which I apologize if I'm stepping on another topic. I don't think we had this one in there, but Woj was on ESPN today saying Portland's not trading Damian Lillard. Like they've basically told teams, don't even ask. Like we're not interested, and we're trying to go the other way with this. So again, I believe that number 3 pick is very much in play and probably going to be traded. Paul George, probably not would be my guess, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting that the Clippers aren't, feeling like we're married to, this PG Kawhi, combo anymore. They're probably looking at, we need to get a little bit more stability on this roster.
If the Blazers could turn the 3rd pick into Paul George, I think that would make some sense for them.
Sure.
It just in terms of that's a lot of firepower that you're adding to Damian Lillard and proving to him that, hey, we're going to go all in and try to win. I don't know why the Clippers do it though. Like, Kawhi couldn't be thrilled with that, right? Hey, Kawhi, we took the guy that you came here to play with and we traded him away, and here's Brandon Miller, right? Or here's Scoot. Here's a rookie. That look, and I like both those guys, but I just can't imagine Kawhi would be super excited about something like that.
Yeah, no, definitely not. You're probably then saying Kawhi opts out and goes, somewhere else or whatever. Because I mean, we know it was, hey, let's both sign there, and then it was, let's both do contracts that match each other as we move forward. And Kawhi's was a new one, and Paul George's was a extension, and let's make sure they go out to the same amount of time. So I'm not sure. Yeah, he'd be super thrilled with that idea. But maybe it turns into a 3-teamer, and something gets happened. All right.
Closing in on a trade. Kristaps Porzingis to Boston, Brogdon to LA, Marcus Morris and draft compensation to Washington. Okay. So it's closing in on a trade. Still not done, but
that's like the same report he had like 2 hours ago. What's new there?
Nothing.
it's there's nothing new in that.
It's closer to getting done. Maybe that means
Adam Himmelsbach, who covers the Celtics and gets a lot of scoops out of the Celtics, it's nearing completion. So
okay.
All right, there we go.
So they're crossing T's and dotting I's. That's what that means.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about a trade that actually did get done. The Nuggets and the Pacers trade draft picks. And essentially the Nuggets are getting a couple of picks this year. Well, you've got the exact pick numbers.
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me.
I'm not going to go through the trade, but I'm going to tell you what picks each team will have because that's,
Yeah.
I think, the relevant part here. So the Pacers, who had 3 first rounders, trading one of them, they're going to get a future first rounder essentially for that. And then they're moving back a little bit. So the Pacers are going to have picks number 7, 26, and 40. And then the Nuggets will now have picks 29, 32, and then 37, which is that pick they're going to get from the Thunder from their previous trade that they're doing with Oklahoma City. So Denver's going to kind of own that the bridge portion of the draft, right between the end of the first round and top of the second round. Pacers, there was reports Scott Agnes had this. He runs the Fieldhouse Files covering the Pacers. Does a great job covering the Pacers. By the way, probably some of the best. Him and Caitlin Cooper. Talk about independent coverage. Like, man, that's a home run having those two. They each do their own separate things. I think Caitlin Cooper's. I apologize if I'm wrong. I think hers is called Basketball. She wrote, which is really kind of funny too. But anyway, it's Scott had this quote from Kevin Pritchard, which was, "We're not going to make all 5 picks," which some common sense in there, right? You can't roster 5 rookies, like 3 rookies from one draft class in the first round, all on rookie scale deals. That gets to be quite a bit. I mean, the Houston Rockets are running into an issue now where they have 7 dudes from the last 2 drafts on their roster. They're going to add 2 more if they keep both of their first round picks. It's 9 guys from 3 consecutive draft classes, which is just kind of crazy. So makes sense why the Pacers would kind of say, hey, all right, we're going to kick the can down the road a little bit, right? Well, we'll get a future first and balance out as these players come in and go. And Denver is basically, all right, we're gonna be super duper expensive, so we're gonna lock in here at the back end of this with some guys.
So the pick that goes to the Pacers, the first that goes to the Pacers, it is the worst of the 2024 first from OKC, the Clippers, Houston, or Utah. So whichever pick is the worst out of all those, that's the one they get. I look at this trade though, and I think, why did Indiana do this? Like, I get wanting to kick the can down the road, but this year's draft is known to be much, much better than next year's. And the pick that you got, if it's the worst out of those teams, you're probably talking about a pick that's, I mean, I guess it could be in the teens, but probably is in the 20s. Is a pick in the 20s in a bad draft more valuable than a pick at the end of the first round in a good draft? That was strange to me, especially when you have to move back in the second round too on top of that.
The move back in the second round on top of it, that feels like a little like, why did that have to happen?
Yeah.
The pick in the 20s, maybe next year against the 29th pick this year. This year's draft is a better draft. I don't know that it's a better draft all the way through the first round. So I think I'd rather take my chance at a higher pick next year. Okay. It's not like that's going to be like an all-time weak draft. And often the way I look at these things is we hear a lot of this stuff of it's a terrible draft class. And then some of it is just we're talking ourselves into it, but it'll feel better by the time we get there. So it's not either way. I don't think they were going to get any kind of great player at 29, and so why not kick it 1 year down the line and say, hey, maybe that pick turns into pick 17 if everybody is really bad or something like that.
Right. And this is more great work by the Nuggets in terms of adding cost-controlled contracts onto their books. Guys that, assuming that they're going to lose Bruce Brown, who we're going to talk about in just a moment, this gives them more opportunities to add in kind of rotation players potentially. We talked about this with the last Nuggets trade that they made, that, hey, you're getting, multiple late picks in this draft, and if you can get 1 or 2 of them to turn into rotation players, that's a big win. It just seems like the Pacers didn't extract any value for the fact that you're getting a pick this year and moving up in the second round. I was surprised that the Pacers made this move for so little in terms of value in return. It really just seems like they just kind of moved their picks down a year and went, oh, okay, no problem. Here you go, Denver. And I thought Denver just killed this trade.
Yeah, I mean, great trade for Denver. I mean, Calvin Booth, it's been a year, right, of him doing this job, and he's been really good at it. Got Bruce Brown assigned there. The Kentavious Caldwell-Pope trade ended up being a huge win for the Nuggets. And then, he's done good work in the draft, especially late in the draft. And that was kind of his thing before he took over the team when he was under Tim Connolly, was like, all right, we're going to find guys in the draft. And, they're going to keep going. And this is Unlike the Celtics and Suns, who are like, super tax be damned. Let's have $500 million rosters. The Nuggets are saying, all right, we're expensive. Let's try to fill out with guys at the end of the draft and balance that way. So
Yeah.
I think this is how you stretch it, right? We talked about how do you turn a 1 year window into a 5, 6, 7 year window. This is part of how you do it. Is if
Yep.
you nail it. Now you got to nail the picks, obviously, but they're in position. And that cost controlled stuff there, even if you're using the new second round signing exception rules, that's even great for you too, right? Because now you've got them for 3-4 years under team control. So yeah, they're looking good there in Denver for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they added quite a bit here. All right, let's see.
Want to
Let's
do
get
Bruce
into
Brown?
Yeah, let's talk Bruce Brown. So Bruce Brown opts out of his
No
contract.
surprise.
Montrezl Harrell does as well. Yeah, no surprise. He bet on himself. He had a 2-year deal that was roughly $6 million per year. It was $6 million
Yeah.
and change each year. Second year was a player option, of course, just to kind of give him that little extra security in case he suffers an injury or something like that happens. We knew when he signed that deal with Denver, there was a decent chance he would opt out of it. Now, after having the season that he did, winning the championship, he opts out. And Denver, because they've got such a very, very heavy roster in terms of the salaries that are in there, and that's part of why they're adding all these late picks to try to get cheap players that you can potentially put into the rotation. I think this is a sign that Bruce Brown is, as much as he would like to stay, he's probably on his way out of Denver.
Yeah, there's the path to him staying is he resigns for about 7.8 million, which is about $1 million over what his option amount was. Then next year, probably on another 1+1. And then next year, Denver has his early bird rights and they resign him to a much bigger contract. That's what Bobby Portis did with the Bucks on what was assumed. Well, that's going to be a 1-year stay in Milwaukee, but then won the championship, became a beloved guy in Milwaukee, and now he's stayed there long term. But Bruce Brown, I think, is also in a spot where Bobby Portis has made or had made considerably more money in his career than Bruce Brown, who was a guy up until now was on minimum contracts. So I think we're looking at this with Bruce Brown is you're coming into, some team starts waving around $15 million a year. All of a sudden it's like, Denver, I mean, we'll always have that title together, right? And we'll have ring night when I visit. That'll be fun. And I'm taking my 15 million and you can't blame the guy. And I don't think anybody in Denver would either. And I know you'll have obviously the salty people who'll be like, he said, I'm not going to hold a dude when I think he was pretty deep into the bag, drunk at the parade saying, I want to stay here, with those kind of things. So I don't think we're going there. It sounds like the Clippers
Number
are
30.
sending 30 to the Wizards. So, all right, Wizards feels a little better.
Porzingis
right?
opt in and trade. Yep.
Yeah. So Porzingis, goes out for 30. Not the end of the world, right? That's not bad, right?
No.
It's still not great, but not bad. And we'll keep obviously updating this as we get more detail while we're on the show here. So so Bruce Brown, good. Montrezl Harrell, just very quickly.
Oh,
some people were.
It's like I just passed over Trez.
I don't care about.
I'm sorry, Trez.
Montrezl Harrell, it just didn't work in Philly, right? So I think that's mostly why he's opting out. Is he'll get a little bit more money by signing a new kind of deal somewhere else for the veteran minimum. I threw to you before the show. I was like, could the Suns make sense for him?
Yeah.
Hey, maybe they could, right? If they're in the market for a guy who can come in and play some minutes. But with Philly, it just never, Joel Embiid, obviously he's going to play 30, 35 minutes a night. And then they really liked Paul Reed getting the rest of those minutes. It was obviously not working out so much so that they went to Dwayne Dedman after buyout season to replace backup minutes. So not a real surprise Montrezl Harrell opted out.
Yeah, not a surprise there, and we'll see where he ultimately lands. I think you're right. I think Phoenix might not be a bad place for him.
Sure.
Anywhere where he'll be looking for backup center minutes. If he can get those minutes somewhere, he can I think still prove some things in this league. But it's all going to depend on that landing spot. That's going to be so important for him here.
Big time.
The Lakers in the rumors now for moving number 17. This is like it's starting to get more national attention. This is nothing new for us, for Lakers Nation. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now. But Jovan Buha of The Athletic has been the one that's been saying, yeah, seeming more and more likely they're going to move it. We don't know if that means move the pick or move back. That's something that has been kind of in the wind for a while now, is that they might move back, try to pick up a player, try to pick up more picks late in this draft, again, with it being a good draft class. So we don't know what that could look like, and they make sense as a team that would be looking to potentially move their pick if they can get what we've heard, and this is what I said as well, is I think you have to get a starter. You have to get a starting caliber player in order to move this pick, given who's projected to be there at 17 in this draft. And we'll see if that materializes or not. But they're definitely a team to watch, along with Portland, along with Dallas, who could potentially move a first-round pick here.
Yeah, I think for the Lakers, you're in a great spot here at 17 to do either of the things you mentioned, either trade out completely and go get go get somebody, or you trade back, right? And go. And part of the reason why that works is because you're in a spot where it becomes a trading back is a real thing, right? And you're not necessarily giving up too much to do so. So I think that's interesting. I was just pulling it up to see who they're mocked to take. Jed Howard in the latest ESPN. So, all right, wing, fit presumably. But I'm with you on, if I'm trading this, and trading back is a little different. Like if I'm trading back into the early 20s, then I still want something else. Obviously, I'm getting something else to do so. I might ideally want some player who could play rotation minutes. And I like the way you phrase it of starting caliber, because when you say starter, that locks people into, all right, well, he's got to be one of the best 5 guys on the team. And that's not necessarily it, right? Like I think of like Rui Hachimura as a starting caliber guy. He may come off the bench for 60 games next year, like that's perfectly fine. There's a reason why when we do our tiers, starters we call out as starting cal. Like perfect example, we spent a lot of time talking about at the top of the show. Malcolm Brogdon is a starting caliber guy who didn't start a single game last year. Right. You would always think of that as, he's a starter. Right. So that's where, I think that's the important thing. It's got to be, starting caliber guy, high end rotation guy. If I'm trading 17 just straight out, I've got to get that back, because otherwise I'd rather have the upside swing on a draft pick.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Is that the players who could be there at 17 are potentially starting caliber players, or guys who especially on a rookie contract, and so that's got a lot of value, especially with the new CBA coming in. So you just have to have that asking price met if you're going to move on from the pick. Otherwise, just keep the pick and make your selection and go from there. Or again, if you move back, maybe you do pick up some kind of like we saw years ago. The Lakers had like the 28th pick. They moved back a couple spots in the year they got Josh Hart, and they moved back to 30. Utah moved up, and they got like the 47th pick or something. They got the pick that became Thomas Bryant that year. Yeah, so I mean, something like that. It depends on how far you move. That's going to determine what else you can get. What I haven't heard a lot of is the Lakers are going to use the pick to trade up. Haven't heard a lot of that, and that makes sense.
Either.
I don't see a path really to doing that. That would make sense.
Yeah, there are not the other things to put into a trade, just given the current flux of the roster, right? They have so few guys under actual contract right now, and you can't necessarily do things that are like sign and trade with a guy with a draft pick. That doesn't work because the draft being earlier than free agency. So that's where that gets super messy. People love to create those scenarios, and it's like, well, you don't ever see those for very good reason. All right, so we got more coming in here from Woj.
Celtics are working on a trade. Oh, this is just Woj, like, Amir Coffee in it, and the 30th pick.
Okay.
Yep.
So, all right. So they're slightly different, right? There. So, that's okay. I like. There's some of the people who are, people who cover the Celtics are like, for the love of God, would you just tell me that this is done already? So, it's kind of funny. I do wonder now. I don't know that Boston now moves Peyton Pritchard. I think maybe they keep him now, because now you've got rotation minutes opened up in your backcourt.
Could be
with him, and I think they probably go with 2 bigs. I think you still start Al Horford, which that'll push White. Or there's a lot of people who think it's time to move Marcus Smart back into a bench role again. So if that goes that way, but you still need somebody else, just for depth reasons. So we'll see. But yeah, sounds like my guess is this is going to get done here within, probably before the end of the night. So
but
Brian
probably not.
Topor, our buddy covers the 76ers, says the Wizards are going to trade Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis and net 1 first-round pick.
Oh,
That's
brutal.
rough. Yeah.
Brutal,
I mean,
Washington. What are you doing?
they're
What are you doing?
accomplishing their goal of clearing money. I mean, I
Oof.
ran the numbers just with, take before any of this Porzingis trade stuff came up, but you just take all the guys off the books that could be gone next year. You could have $90 to $100 million in cap space.
Yeah, I guess what you have to do is, if this is going to work for Washington, you have to be, for a season or two at least, you have to be the dumping ground, and you have to get a ton of picks.
Oklahoma City
That's how you have to get your future draft capital that you didn't get in these trades, is by just being that team that's going to take on all the gross salaries and get picks for it, and then move forward from there. That's what they're going to have to do.
What we can do once we have a better picture of where this is going with everything, which may come after the draft. What we can do is we can start going through like, all right, these are guys maybe the Wizards could just eat from a team, where a team's like, hey, we got to get rid of this crappy deal. Okay, we'll take it, right? Because you're absolutely right. That's exactly what they should be doing. Is saying like, hey, yeah, we'll go. Send God, you're gonna be so mad. I'm gonna blow it. But send us, you're tired, you're hungry, you're wretched, and you're poor. I don't know, whatever it is.
You're tired, you're poor, you're huddled masses.
Yes,
yearning to be free. Yes.
There it is.
Where is that, Keith?
It's on the Statue of Liberty?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
So.
Yes, it
is.
It's
funny?
The new Colossus.
I've seen the Statue of Liberty like 100 times in various trips to New York. Or driving by and through New York. I've never actually gone over to it, and I've been there quite a bit, but never actually gone out there. I don't know. I kind of was like, all right, I see it. Like, I don't know that I need to go.
I have not been to New York, so I haven't gone there either. But I taught a lesson all on the Statue of Liberty and everything back in my teaching days, and talked about how it was a throwback to the Colossus of Rhodes and from ancient times, and what that looked like, and how the Statue of Liberty compares, and the meaning, and all that kind of stuff. It's really fascinating.
Was the Colossus of Rhodes the one where like he straddled the harbor?
Yeah,
but what they say it was. We don't know for
right,
sure
but
yet.
It would have been all but impossible for them to do that. So it most likely was just kind of to the side of the harbor, and but it gets romanticized. Next thing you know, it's like this. It's Galactus size, and it's straddling either side of the harbor, and all that.
When I was a kid, I got super obsessed with the 7 wonders of the world for a little while, and I remember being like, I want to go visit all of them. And my dad then threw like cold water all over it, where he's like, one of them is left. Like none of them are like around anymore.
Yeah.
Like they're all like, and now there's like, if you read a lot of stuff, it's like, did they even exist? Or like, sounds like some of those ancient writers were making up some good stuff back in the day for the rest of us to go with, because there's no fact check. If you said, yeah, this exists over there, it's like, okay, I'm never gonna go there. So
exactly. If I tweet out like King Kong is climbing the is climbing the Eiffel Tower right now, like eventually people in Paris would just take out their phones and go, no, they're not. See,
no, they're not.
And,
you lied. Or more likely somebody would put it together real quick using AI, like King Kong climbing the Eiffel Tower, and they'd be like, oh my God, Trevor's right, it is happening. That'd probably be more how.
Oh no.
And that set off global panic because nobody in Paris would just bother to look out the window. They'd just stay on Twitter. Like, well, I guess we're all dead with the monsters.
It's like in I think it's the 4th Die Hard movie. Yeah, I think it's the 4th one, Live Free or Die Hard, where they blow up. I think they blow up the Capitol building.
Yes.
And Bruce Willis just runs around the corner and looks and sees that it's still there, and he's like, okay. Phew. I'm like,
it's like
Speed, we would not do that. We would just go, okay, all right. Well, I guess
just assume.
You could just walk over there and look, too far.
My faith in things have been restored, but a couple years ago, when we're at the height of the pandemic, and it felt like everything was going sideways, and it was like we have murder hornets, and and this global pandemic and all this stuff. I would have been like, okay, the monsters are here too. I'm just gonna believe it. I'm not gonna bother to check.
Oh man,
off the rails at the end. Took a little bit, but we got there.
That's right. That's right. We made it. We made it somehow, some way.
Unfortunately, we didn't stretch enough to this trade getting done.
I know.
So,
I was hoping. I'm like going, well, maybe, but we do still have one more thing.
oh, sorry. Let me just related to the thing is Adam Himmelsbach, again from the Boston Globe, says, according to multiple league sources, the completion of the Porzingis deal would likely mean that Grant Williams' time in Boston has come to an end. I
Ooh,
wonder if to
because
do
of
right
salary.
by Grant Williams, if there's either if they just don't even do the qualifying offer and just let him be an unrestricted free
No.
agent, that's the possibility. Or does that mean, hey, we're going to try to work a sign and trade to fill in, whatever it is we feel like we need now, moving
Interesting.
forward. Yeah.
Interesting.
All right, we have
Yeah.
something else. Sorry.
Yeah, we do have this. The cap rises.
Oh my gosh. Kind of only the fundamental thing of this entire show.
The
Yes.
salary cap went up by
What?
$2 to $3 million, depending on whether you're looking at the apron or if you're looking at just total cap space or whatever. But
Yep.
yeah, the salary cap went up. So I guess functionally, the NBA made more money. That's the bottom line, and that's than they were necessarily expecting to, and that's why the cap rises, because it's tied to that. So the salary cap goes up, and that it's not a ton. It's not like teams are suddenly. It's not like the Warriors are suddenly signing Kevin Durant or whatever. But the cap is going to go up a little bit, and that means there's going to be some added flexibility for teams by a couple $1 million.
Yeah, where the cap part of this is, it's nice, right? It's a couple extra million in cap space on a handful of those teams that have cap space. Right now, I project there to be 7. Later tonight, when I have a chance to actually sit down and run through all this, I will release updated cap space projections, and I'll just do that through a tweet pre-draft. But the other piece of this with this is it's the tax going up. And the tax went up about 3 million or so, both on the tax, the apron, and then the subsequent super tax second apron. So that's great news for those teams, especially those ones that are like right up against it, right? And it's just, man, we could use just that little bit more wiggle room kind of thing. And that's huge, in those situations. So I think that's that's really important, that now we've got that. And beyond that, further proof the league is in great shape, right? And this is, the cap's going up this year more than was thought. We're already hearing next year probably goes up more than we thought. And then it's the year after that all the new media rights money will kick in. And it sounds like, those are going to just, they're going to influence a ton of money into the system. And why I say into the system is, remember, we have cap smoothing now. The cap can't go up more than 10%.
Right.
They did put that kind of block on there with that. But that, let's say it should go, and I'm making this up completely, but let's say it should go up 20%. What happens is those extra percentage points spill into the next year, in the next year, and the next year, until you get caught up again. So, so we're there. So at some point we'll have a artificial raise on a year that probably shouldn't have gone up quite as much, because that'll be how this rebalances out.
Yeah, and that's the way that'll have to they'll eventually get it caught up, and that's the way that'll go. But anyway, good news, right, for the league, that the league is strong. Things are going well for the NBA, and we keep on rolling. Keith, one of the things that I think we didn't talk about with the 3-team trade, the Clippers take on $22.5 million in 2024, 2025.
Yeah.
Which, just, I think they just continue to raise that middle finger at the second tier apron, the super tax, or whatever we want to call it. Because looking at the contracts they've got on the books, and we don't know for sure what's going to happen with Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. Sure. Maybe they opt out, but they have player options for that year. If they opt in, like, they're going to be over it with like 6 or 7 players on the books right now.
Yeah, and in reality on this too, so I'm going to throw the Celtics into this grouping now here as well, because you're not getting Porzingis for 1 year, right? Your idea here is let's get him for multiple seasons would be my thought on this. So now you're in a spot where you've got the Celtics and Suns in the last week, and now the Clippers even more so, basically saying, all right, cool with your super tax, but we're gonna blow right through it and go. And I think what you're gonna see is teams are, if you're close, which all of those teams I think should reasonably view themselves as close, go ahead, right? Because if you really want to win, you're going to have to do stuff. And for Boston, the sense has been they were going to do something, right? It didn't
Yeah.
need to be break up Tatum and Brown and all the other stuff. It's out there, but they were going to do something. They couldn't just run it back again with essentially the same grouping. So yeah, so they're doing their something. The Clippers are going and filling a spot that's it's been a problem basically through this current iteration of this team. That point guard spot has been a weird thing for them. Now they're going to have pretty good one, and I'm just going to assume they keep Russ too, and now you're covered with point guard play, and and we'll see. It's kind of these teams are, instead of it being, we've talked a lot about how this was supposed to be the grace period year
Mm-hmm.
of all right, well let's try to rebalance the books and do all this stuff.
Teams are
These
using
teams
it to
are
go over now. Yeah.
these teams are like, cool, thanks for giving us the grace period year. Watch us blow right through all these things that we really weren't supposed to do, and why it's all happening right now. All this stuff needs to happen by the end of the month, because on July 1st, the trade matching rules and all that stuff gets far more restrictive. And then it gets even more restrictive a year from now. But they're doing all this stuff now because it's let's blow through. So, man, I think we're going to be in for a bonkers day tomorrow.
Oh,
a
yeah.
bonkers 2 weeks of stuff. I mean, I think we are going to find ourselves in a couple weeks at Summer League, and we're all going to be looking at each other like, what
just happened?
Yeah, like what is going on with the league? Like, this is just absolute madness with this stuff. But I had tweeted about it before. I've had multiple people say this felt like the big reset. Some are coming, and here we are.
Yeah, it does seem like that's the way it's going to go. And again, I think it comes back to, this is not what the league wanted to happen here. So we'll find out. Was the league's effort in the CBA a failure or a success? And it's going to be determined by what these teams do. Do we see these teams win a championship, or are these teams so hampered by their inability to fill out the depth of a roster that it prevents them from winning? And then the NBA said, okay, mission accomplished. Teams aren't going to continue to try to push this direction. So we'll see. We'll see how this all goes. But you're right, it does get way more restrictive next year. And so teams are trying to get in the moves right now while they can before that hits them next season, and then the real pain starts.
Yeah, it's man, it's this is just going to be really crazy to watch how all this comes together here over the next couple weeks, and really the reality is over the next couple of years. I think we're going to actually see the effect, because like for the Celtics, none of the big stuff he's going to really hit them until Brown's on his new contract. And then it's not really going to hit him until Tatum's new contract kicks in, assuming, Brown signs and all the things that go along with that. So we're in a spot. Can I gripe about one thing very quickly?
Sure.
This is nothing to do with, well, it's got something to do. So, right, the noise, the Twitter noise, right, on your phone, tweet. That should be Twitter's noise only. Like, it drives me mad on my iPhone that you can't change those. And I'm sure somebody's gonna be like, "Well, you could jailbreak it and do all these other things." I'm not gonna do that. I'm not that tech savvy. I have a app for, like, our daughter's soccer club uses the same thing, and Dunkin' Donuts uses the same thing too. And I realized I should probably just shut off, but I want to know when I can get like free coffees and stuff. So I'm not gonna shut that off. But man, it just drives me crazy because I hear it go off, and then I look and I'm like, "Oh, that's not." Nothing. It wasn't a tweet, especially at this time of year. It just makes me mad.
I'll jump in there because you mentioned it. It's not that I never have my sound on anyway, so my notifications are all just right, like it's the buzz, whatever. But you mentioned Dunkin' Donuts. How do you have donuts in your name and have such terrible donuts?
Yeah,
they're not good. You go to the local donut shop and they're way better. Way better than Dunkin' Donuts.
Here's my issue with the local donut places, though.
I'm not a coffee guy.
At least down here, our local donut places, like all the donuts are like the size of my head. And I'm like, I don't need like these giant donuts. Because if I'm going to eat donuts, I might eat enough donuts if you put them together the size of my head. I'm going to eat like 3 different kinds. Like, I'm not diving into, just one kind of donut. So, yeah, I mean, Dunkin' Donuts Boston cream is fine. I have no issue with that. Their glazed is fine. But yeah, it's more for me. It's about the coffee than anything else. But I'm a New England kid. There's literally, I don't know if it's still there, but when I was living in Boston, like in town going to school, there's literally a street corner that had a Dunkin' Donuts on each corner. in the middle of the city, and all 4 were busy, and it was so people didn't have to try to cross this busy road to get to one, and all 4 did enough business to stay open, which is that just we're sickos and weirdos that love Dunkin' Donuts so much.
It must be the coffee because
Yeah, I don't know people who are in love with their. If I'm going donuts, give me Krispy Kreme every time. Like
Okay.
that's where I'm going for donuts. I'll go to Krispy Kreme, and there's a couple specialty places that are just like down here that have good donuts here in Orlando too. But like you said, I mean, those are more like that's more like all right, I'm going to eat. This is my full breakfast. Is this one giant donut kind of thing? We'll go get a couple and then we cut them up and split them up.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to do it.
As a family, that's
you can get the glaze, get the sprinkle, get the chocolate, get all those ones.
Yeah, and these ones are like crazy where it's like maple bacon, and all this other stuff.
Right.
So, all right, we just got another tweet.
Mark Stein expected to lead to a July contract extension for Porzingis beyond next season's $36 million player option.
Okay.
Today was the deadline. Yeah. So everybody's just kind of like inching this a lot, like just slowly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Each report is
plugging in a little bit more. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So, we're taking baby steps to get this done.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna. This is gonna get done probably a little bit later tonight. Probably whatever the least optimal time for this to get done is.
Exactly. All right. Well, Keith, we did everything we could. We talked about donuts. We did everything possible to try to have this trade break. Yeah. While we were recording, did not happen, but we know the parameters. We know it's probably going to get done. So
I won't change enough. We'll probably retouch on it again tomorrow. As of right now, hopefully I'm not overstepping. There will not be a regular show tomorrow because we're going to be live for the draft. Obviously, if some massive thing happens, either we'll go live earlier than we thought for the draft and we'll break it down then, or we'll break it down during the while they're playing highlights of Victor Wembanyama. We'll get into it at that point. But live for the draft tomorrow night, the two of us will be joined by Sean Davis. So we're super excited to do that. We're going to be live for the bulk of the first round, if not the entire thing, maybe into the second round. We'll kind of see how the night goes. And then tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but the day after, maybe sort of we'll see front office Friday. Probably a lot of that we'll feel. How are we feeling after? Probably will be about a 4-hour show the night before, and or do we still have voices and those sorts of things there? But yeah, a lot of fun stuff coming for you guys, and then it's still a couple weeks out. And we'll let you guys know the details, but we'll be live in studio together in Las Vegas recording shows. And since a couple people asked in the comments on one of our previous videos, yes, live shows in the evening time on the free agency night. So the 30th we'll go live. It'll be a little bit later in the evening. Probably earliest I'd say would be 10 Eastern, probably a little bit later in the night as things go. And we'll, when the newsbreakers stop pumping stuff out every 5 to 15 minutes, then we know, all right, they're probably going to bed, and then we'll call it a night. But we
need Woj, Shams, when they go to bed, just tweet good night.
Yes, exactly.
Just tweet good night. So I know, I can sleep now, right?
I think the league would appreciate it too if they're like, hey, we're going to bed, guys. We'll see you tomorrow at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah, exactly. We'd all love it. I'd also love too if we could build in like going to get lunch right now, right? Like,
right. Okay, go get food. But they wouldn't stick with it though. That would be the problem. It would be like if Woj and Shams were in the same room, right? Yeah. They're sharing. They've got a room with a couple of twin beds in it or whatever. Like they're both sitting there just staring at each other, and Shams is going, "No, you go ahead. You go to sleep. It'll be fine. I'll definitely go to sleep." And Woj is saying the same thing.
The Office. With Dwight, Michael, and Andy, and then the camera pans around and Pam's standing there, and they're all stand up. That is one of my favorite episodes, by the way, The Office. So that's a good one. That is Murder in Savannah. So yeah,
I'm not going down for this.
I'm not. Yeah, right. Yeah, and then Jim's like, "Really, Pam? Really? Like, let's go." Yeah, great stuff. But, all right, we're
off the rails.
Off the rails. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow night for the live draft show.
All right, everybody. See ya. Stay safe.